everyone to the Porter County ARPA Steering Committee. We will call the meeting to order, and please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will take roll call of the members present. Commissioner Blaney? Councilmember Bozick? Here. Councilmember Rivas?
Here.
And non-voting attorney advisor Scott McClure?
Present.
And myself, I'm Vicki Urbanik, Porter County Auditor. This is the ARPA Steering Committee meeting, and the first item on the agenda is approval of the March 10th meeting minutes. They were all emailed to you, and a hard copy is in front of you, and I am requesting that we do sign one version of the minutes, so I will pass this along. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Seconded?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, minutes are approved. And if I could just pass this along, the signature pages in the back. Okay, so this is more of a meeting to give some updates on where we are with the whole ARPA planning process. And the first agenda item on this topic is the update on the subcommittees, and I will take care of this. All of the subcommittees have met at least once. In at least one case, there have been 3 meetings. So the meetings are well underway, and I think it's fair to say that every subcommittee is now ready to officially begin hearing presentations from all of the funding requests that were submitted. The deadline, just to recap, it was March 31st. We received 63 applications totaling asks of more than $53 million. When you add in the $4 million that has already been approved, we're at $57 million, which of course is well above our $33 million SLFRF allocation that was awarded to Porter County government. So far, there have been a number of meetings held, and there's a full slate of meetings that are scheduled. And there was one that was added just yesterday. So and another one that was just tentatively added this morning. So if all of these meetings do occur, we're going to be having a total of 22 meetings over the course of just 2 months. That is, in my opinion, a phenomenal amount of meetings. When you consider the sheer volume of people who are serving on these committees, all of the applicants and all of the people's schedules, it's been an amazing process.
Are you at all 22 of those?
So far.
Oh, my goodness.
However, next week is the state's state-called conference for county auditors, and I am pretty much required to be there. And so I'm hoping to try to trim some responsibilities so that I could, next week there are 3 subcommittees planned, and I know I will be missing at least one, possibly 2, possibly 3. But at this,
I'll pass her out next week for number of meetings attended.
there you go. Yeah. However, I did pledge in response to
Yes.
a question, will you watch the videos? And I did promise I would. At least 3 times. So there you go. But, at this point, the subcommittees are here to hear the presentations, so, but yes.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. I mentioned that we had 63 requests, and these were from, by my count, 48 applicants, and that meant that there were a number of applicants who submitted multiple proposals. So if I could just go through some of these subcommittees, the Behavioral Health and Social Services Committee is reviewing a total of 10 proposals from 9 different applicants. And so they have 3 meetings scheduled at which they are going to be hearing 3 presentations at each of those evening meetings. Okay. Now, the Nonprofit and Employers Subcommittee, they are the committee that's going to be reviewing the most number of applicants. They had more than 25 applicants that they were reviewing. And because of the sheer volume of those applicants, what they did last night was they took a vote to decide who was going to go to the next level. In other words, based on the strength of their written application, they made what might be called a first cut. And so they whittled down the number of applications to 16. And so they have 4 meetings scheduled at which they are going to hear 4 presentations each meeting. And notices went out today to all of the applicants who made the first cut, asking them to please give me some dates that they are available. And if they don't give dates that are available, they will be assigned a meeting date. And per the subcommittee chair, they are expected to be there, even if they can't be there.
Question.
Or if it's not their preferred meeting date. Yes.
I'm sorry. What about the 9 that were turned down? Did we tell them? Or does that go on at the end, or how does that work?
Yes, I will be telling them.
Oh, okay. Now or later?
Yes,
or?
now,
Okay.
that they did not advance, and I'm going to share them the link of the video so that they could
Hear it out.
see what was discussed.
Can I ask what the, do you know what the total number of requests were that made it to the next level, the total dollar amount?
I don't have the exact number, I
Don't
think
worry
Kurt
about
had
it.
it, but it's around
about
20
million.
20 million.
Just out of that committee?
Correct, yes,
Still more whittling down to do.
yes, yes.
That's a tough committee.
Yes. And then the next 2 committees are, well, let me go back to the nonprofit committee, because this is going to come up when all these proposals come to you. The nonprofit committee is really unlike the other committees, because they are focusing on a very specific part of the final rule that says, that describes assistance to small businesses and assistance to nonprofits. And so the rule will require the subcommittee to identify 2 items: economic harm caused or exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, and how the response addresses that harm. How does it relate to that harm? And is the response reasonably, proportionately related to that harm? So, in other words, as an example, let's say that a group proves that they lost $10,000 of revenue due to a shutdown during COVID, but they're asking for $10 million. That subcommittee should evaluate if that is reasonably proportional to the harm that was caused. So it is an interesting committee, whereas all of the other committees are looking at programs or services or capital expenditures that the subcommittees believe would be a proper and good use of our county's SLFRF allocation. This is our allocation that we have tentatively proposed to be, in a sense, shared with outside groups. So it's a little bit of a different focus. Now, the next 2 subcommittees, one is the County COVID-19 Response Subcommittee, and they will be hearing 15 different proposals, but from only 6 applicants. And so this committee has just 1 additional meeting scheduled where they hope to hear all of the presentations all in 1 meeting. And then the last subcommittee is the Infrastructure and Facilities Committee. They will be hearing 13 different proposals from 9 different applicants. And their next meeting is this Friday, where they will hear some of the presentations, and another meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday. And they tentatively are scheduling a 3rd and possibly final meeting. So for the most part, all of the meetings are scheduled. There's still some possible changes that might be coming. So that is basically the update of where we are with the subcommittees, but if they stay on track, all of the recommendations should be completed and to you by the end of May, which is what the target timetable was.
Great.
I think what's going to be a challenge for us, because I'm sure what will get passed up here will equal more than 33 million. So our challenge will be balancing apples and oranges and deciding what to recommend to the next level. What's the most important use of these funds? What does the county want to spend this money on?
So what was the total amount of request, total number in dollars?
The original one?
57?
Yes,
million
total.
Was the total?
Yes.
All right, well, I definitely hope it's whittled down considerably when it gets to us, you know, I mean, that's the purpose of the committees.
Well, and each committee though is doing their own
yeah,
thing,
that's
so
the
they,
problem,
Yes, they
yeah.
we're gonna end up with more than 33 million, I'm sure of it. And it's gonna be tough.
And since we didn't sit through them, are we gonna have those committees members here when we discuss it? How is that gonna work? Are we gonna discuss it as it gets closer?
What do you think?
Well, earlier discussions were that, one, each steering committee will be assigned to watch every video in their entirety. I'm kidding.
I was thinking, oh, well, I like this, but
No,
we whittle
actually,
those down.
the earlier thought process was that each subcommittee is going to present to you.
Okay.
They're going to tell you, these are our top preferred, these are our recommended projects, here is our ranking, here is our rationale. And you might remember that at the last meeting, we talked about a format that we would like each subcommittee to use to present to us. And that's still in the works, because as you mentioned, each subcommittee is approaching things a little bit different. But that was the original discussion, that the subcommittees would be presenting to the steering committee, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but I'm supposed to present to the steering committee's plan to the commissioners.
Yes.
That I remember.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I assume at that point, these other committees will know if they are asking for 10 million and we only have 8 million left, if that will work for the foundation or the people requesting the money, or at that point, will we ask them, or how?
You mean if
If we're gonna give them less than what we have, what if we get down to it and we have a project we wanna do and we have 10 or 8 million left, and it's a $10 million project? How do we look at stuff like that? Are we not
you
tackling
mean a
that?
county project?
Any project. Any project that comes up from one of these committees. I'm saying, what if we decided to give one of these requests less money than they're asking for?
Correct.
That's what
That-
I'm kind of getting at.
Okay, that is one of the questions that the committees
That I
are
remember. Thank you.
expected to ask each of the applicants. I should mention that two of the subcommittees have a scoring rubric. They're somewhat similar, but there's some differences because the committees are a little different. And one of the committees passed or will be using what they're calling a project checklist that has a list of questions. This is the nonprofit one that asks questions such as, what was your economic harm and how is it related to COVID? But the project checklist also has the steering committee's priority considerations, and one of those questions is, will the entity accept a lesser amount of funding? Because some projects might need that amount of funding, or else they're
not
they're
gonna
dead.
happen. Do
It's
it,
not going
right.
to happen. So that's going to be an important question.
And did they include asking whether or not these organizations have received other?
Yes, that's going to be one of the questions as well. Absolutely. That's on the scoring rubric. If the steering committee wants to see the scoring rubrics, I'll send that to
You
you.
might want to use it too.
It's gonna be tough with
I don't know what it looks like, yeah, I don't. maybe
Right.
it might-
apples
The-
and oranges.
Right, the nonprofit one is really geared towards the nonprofit
Okay,
groups.
but I'd like to see it, yeah. So that sounds like a good idea.
Right, but we can adjust it for your purposes, for the steering committee.
So some of these requests seem to me that they're trying to expand services. Are they asking questions like, I mean, this money's limited, so what happens when the ARP money runs
What if
out?
I run through these general
How are they going to
considerations that
continue
we
to
sent
fund
down?
those?
Is questions, I think that'll answer it. We agreed on this, but it's been,
Yeah, it's been, that's what, I know I had asked that same question about taking less money.
so, we talked about, are they an eligible use? Are they one-time? Do they leverage matching funds from other sources to the extent allowed? Will they serve a large number of people in Porter County, and what is the target population served? Are the agencies and organizations located in Porter County or primarily having operations in Porter County? Effective, do we think it's an effective and impactful use of the ARPA money? Are they capable to obligate the funds by December 31st, 2024, which we're going to talk about that in a minute? And are they capable of completing the spending by the deadline as well? So those were some things. Some other considerations we talked about. What level of federal aid has the applicant received through other COVID-19 programs? Commitment to adhere to non-discrimination policies, commitment to adhere to the best labor practices, degree to which the applicant has had negative audit findings, late tax filings, suspension of nonprofit status, or any other violations of federal, state, and local regulations. And I know you guys all have this in your packet, your original folder, binder.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's in the office, I'll grab that next time, I forgot I had that.
But this paper is in your binder, so.
And that is included in the project checklist
Yeah.
for one of the subcommittees. So they're expected to either ask, or if the presenter doesn't address it, or, excuse me, they would ask if the presenter doesn't actually address it. And the subcommittee did release both of this, the scoring rubric and the project checklist, to the presenters, meaning they're seeing everything that the committee is going to be using to evaluate them. And I'll send you the other one.
That's
I
it, that's
don't
really,
have-
oh, do you need this back or no?
I can get a different
Yeah,
version,
well
so
done.
it's, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So that is the update on the subcommittees. We're moving well along.
So start thinking about what's important to you. We're gonna get that challenge.
Exactly. So if we can move along on the agenda, the next item is a discussion of the requirement to obligate the ARPA funds by December 31st, 2024. This is a requirement in the final rule, and I'm going to defer to Attorney McClure.
So I think this committee needs to discuss, have a little bit of a open discussion about this date. So obviously the date is provided to us, December 31st, 2024. The projects or the checks or the awards need to be obligated, which means an approved contract to be obligated, which brings up, as you've said, as Vicki and I have gone to some of the, or most of the other meetings so far, you start getting into projects, things that have a little longer time horizon, and it starts to become, I think, a critical issue for this committee to consider. So the problem is this: if the money is not obligated by that magic date, that money gets returned to the Treasury. So and then they have until 2026 to actually spend it, okay? Well, whether it's in the infrastructure subcommittee, some of the non-for-profit requests, really across the board, most of these committees have projects. And so if, if it's a building project, if they haven't yet have an engineer or an architect or own the property or have money fundraised, they're going to be in a tight timeline. Some of it has to do with it's just the timing it takes to design things and get it approved and get it bid and those type of things. But also, everyone received ARP money, okay? Every city, every town, every county, everyone's doing projects. And so the engineering and the architectural world is also feeling that. And so getting those things online and getting those done will also be a challenge. So because it's a cliff that we would fall off of, I think my suggestion for the board to consider would be maybe this committee directs all the committees below that maybe it's July 1st of 2024. What I like about that date, just kind of my thought pattern is that if July 1st, 2024 comes around and someone is right on the precipice and it's provable that, hey, I've got to dot this I and cross this T, but I'm going to hit the finish line by August 15th or whatever the committee or the individuals listening feel is enough. But if it is not going to happen, then the county needs the opportunity to figure out where else it would spend it. And everyone knows what it's like around here in November and December, coming out of budgets and all the things that are going on, depending on the size of the award and the thing going on, it may be something as simple as there's $25,000 and it would take not a grand amount of time. But if it was a larger project, we're going to be in the same position as anyone else would be that got awarded money. We're going to be down to, can you obligate it by December 31st? And so, just for discussion purposes, I think a 6-month window allows the projects to get a little extra rope, so to speak, if they're really that close. But it also gives the county an opportunity to not refund money to the Treasury because we just missed a deadline and didn't have it obligated. And to give the county an opportunity to figure out what best way to would be to spend that money if we found ourselves in that circumstance. But, I can tell you, there's a lot of building projects and some are this far down the road and some are this far down the road. And so, obviously, as they hear the presentations, that's going to be part of the evaluation of how things come up. But I think also the other subcommittees would probably like a little bit of direction on this so that they know, are we angling for you for this date or December 31st or a date in between? But that's the logic behind it. It's not to be punitive. I think we can all agree that returning the money was probably our least favorite option, or least preferred option at this point in time.
Well, the least preferred from my standpoint is that we have to return the money because it's not in compliance with the final road.
Way to bring it down.
Yeah.
Bring it down a little bit more.
Vicky can always make it worse.
Oh, yeah. But no, you're right.
So if we moved it to July, would that affect any of these people that are already in it? Would that hurt anybody? I don't see that as an
We're more
negative.
than 2 years out.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And to clarify, will the requirement be that the nonprofits have to obligate or have to spend by July 1st, 2025?
Obligate.
Obligate.
And maybe
Maybe a 6-month window for the spend as well, but then if somebody else obligated it and couldn't spend it, we still wouldn't be able to.
Right, right.
That date's not as,
right. And I think ultimately, because we haven't seen all the presentations and we haven't seen what's kind of, rising to the top yet, but, sorry, lost my train of thought.
I think that when we get these, whatever, hopefully it's dwindled down from, the number that's left, that we go over them, dwindle it down even more, and then when we send it to the Board of Commissioners, that we too then, the same as the subcommittees, sit in front of us and present what they think, that we dwindle it down and we sit in front of the commissioners and with our recommendations and give further recommendations of like the July 1st deadline, whatever recommendations we want to attach to it, any kind of labor requirements,
I'm thinking they're saying to do this July date now in our steering committee to allow the committee's time and to warn the people that are applying. That's why I took it.
Sure. I mean, if that's,
And
we're gonna
that's-
recommend it downstream, yeah.
I'll make-
And that's how I intended it. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
I got my thought back.
You're welcome.
I think, thank you, Jeremy. And what this, whether it's the commissioners or the council or this committee or whatever it's existing in 2024, I think there's probably going to have to be like a June, July review. Here's all the awards, with the then sitting auditor, what's been going on, what's been happening, how are these things progressing, to be able to then, well, everything's great and everything's on track and we don't have to worry about this, or there's a few that need to be brought in to tell us what your struggles have been. And anyone that's been part of the building project knows you can expect, if you expect change and expect curveballs. It's never easy and straightforward. So people are going to have their struggles, but that also gives them some time.
Yeah, Laura,
Do you need a motion? or-
I'll make the motion to make the date to obligate the ARPA funds per the county on July 1st, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. And so we will share that with all the subcommittees to know that that is the new requirement that they're to ask all of the groups, including any county agencies that have funding requests before them.
Yeah, everyone.
Everyone.
And this board will probably, like you said, Scott, need to meet that year before that's, some of us might not be sitting here anymore by then.
well, Laura, you bring up a great point, Commissioner Blaney. I don't know maybe the proper way to fund this. This is an idea because we're going out a couple years here. And I'm not suggesting a single person, but we get down the road here and somebody like our auditor is no longer in the building, but has shepherded this thing pretty far down the road. You know, are there ways either out of these funds or other funds that maybe we can hire her to continue to shepherd it all the way to the end? You know, I mean, she's been our professional, she's saved us a lot of money, you know, next thing you know, she's out of the whole equation and,
Do you know she's out of the whole, what happens if
I said next
things
thing you
work
know.
out? Does she still work for that department? I have
So
no
we
idea.
should probably keep that in mind, in the
Let's
back
keep
of our
it in
head.
mind. And
So-
she can decide if she even wants to do that. She may run screaming for the building and never turn around.
Yeah,
No,
so-
that's not possible. You have to come back.
Okay, I'm cutting this conversation to a close. I got the gavel. Well, thank you for your sentiment.
I
It
wanna
is
keep
truly
that in mind.
appreciated.
I mean, yeah, your involvement and impact on this process is a
Yes.
lot, and for you to all of a sudden walk away in the middle of it would be damaging to the process. So that's enough. That a girl, Vicky, so.
But we could spend all the money this year and be done with it.
What do you want to spend it on?
Let's,
All right,
Next.
what's next on the agenda?
okay, next, thank you. Next on the agenda is something really exciting. April 30th is a major, major deadline for government units all throughout our country because that is the deadline for most government units to submit their quarterly project and expenditure report. Now, we did submit a project and expenditure report that was for the quarter ending December 31st, but our county really didn't have much to say, so, because there was absolutely no spending. But in this quarter, we do have some expenditures that we will be submitting to Treasury. I hope to be able to show you what it looks like, but unfortunately, I can't do that right now because I have to get in the portal, and we haven't submitted our report yet, but it will be submitted on time, of course. We will be reporting our premium pay and the supplemental documentation that might be required, and we will also be reporting the expenditures thus far in the Market Trail project. But the one thing that makes this particular report interesting is that we did receive confirmation from a online webinar or a meeting that was hosted by the National Association of Counties and the Government Finance Officers Association, where they talked about the compliance and reporting mainly for counties, but it also applies to cities. And with this particular report, we must, it is a federal requirement, declare how we're going to address revenue loss. Are we going to calculate revenue loss using the formula that is spelled out in the final rule, or are we going to opt for the one-time allowance, which is a standard allowance that is much more straightforward and simple to calculate? Our initial projections show that our county would still come out ahead by taking the standard allowance. And so I'm going to look at those calculations one more time, and if it's more favorable to us to do the standard allowance, I am prepared to declare that standard allowance. And what this means is that we are saying that we are taking the allowance of up to 10 million that would be placed in the revenue loss category. And the revenue loss category, as a refresher, is basically the most flexible use. It can be used for any general government service. So let's say that we have a project that you really want to pursue, but it's determined that that's really not in compliance with the final rule. You can place it in the revenue loss category. We already know that there's going to be some dipping in the revenue loss category for the Market Trail project, the extent to which we don't yet know, because part of the trail is going to be a match for federal funds. We're working with Stormwater Department on fine-tuning exactly how much that is. There's some questions about the grant awards that have been awarded for this project. So we know we're going to dip into that for Market Trail to some extent. And I think there's a proposal that has been submitted that suggests revenue loss as well. There's also, based on my preliminary review, a couple proposals that I would recommend to you would have to be placed in revenue loss if the county wants to pursue that, because in my mind, I don't think it complies.
So is there any action you need this board to take?
If you would like to agree with that, that would be helpful. So there's a board saying that you agree with my recommendation to take the more favorable route for Porter County.
Yes, of course.
We'll make the motion to take the standard allowance of 10 million to go into the revenue loss category.
Motion, is there a second?
The second.
Motion made and seconded?
Should the motion just be for her to do whatever's most advantageous, or should it be that?
Well, she just told us that is most
We're
advantageous.
okay. I thought she was still looking into it.
I'm still looking
misunderstood.
into it. I just want to do one more final review. It's been a while
So
since I looked
I
at the
think,
numbers.
wouldn't it be
That's fine.
better?
Then I'll switch my
Okay.
motion to what Andy said.
Okay, very good. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and none opposed. So we will be declaring whatever is most preferential. We must do it. From what I was told during this webinar, is that all government units have to make one decision or another
Really?
with
So-
this report.
What if some of the projects that don't fall under the guidelines, and we decide we want to fund them still, so we use some of this money, and we take that 10 million, where do we go with the rest of that $10 million? I mean, could that then be just used for general operations in the county?
Yes.
That's another tough decision we have to make.
Yes, it can. Any other comments on that?
I crossed it off of my list.
Okay, very good.
And we're done. Take the rest.
So are there any other matters to come before the steering committee? I did jump over the scheduling of the next meeting. What is your feeling about another meeting? do you want to wait until all the recommendations come in?
I think that makes sense. I mean, what else would we be meeting on?
Yeah.
Should we get something on the books for that, since they seem to be, scheduling meetings seems to be a
So it
little.
would probably June, early June kind of timeframe
What was the deadlines for them to be done?
in May.
End of May?
May.
Oh, first week.
And it does look like, you know, anything can happen, but it does look like everyone's going to be making that deadline. The last scheduled meeting is May 23rd, so that's a whole week before the end of May.
You'd probably want a little time to put together the package for the
Yeah,
committee.
let each committee
So
perform
maybe
a
if you went
presentation.
into the week of
13th?
Going to go to the week of the 13th.
Andy, you had some conflicts.
Baseball schedule isn't out yet, so I'm pretty open. The only day that, for June right now, that wouldn't work for me is the 8th, because my wife has a council meeting. And I'll be bringing the kids if so.
I've done that before.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't mind. We can do it on the 8th. Whatever works for you guys.
This is going to be
Candy
an
and
evening.
crayons.
Right?
This
Oh,
is going to be an evening meeting.
well, yeah, that's.
Preferred for me, anytime after 3:45 or 3:45.
We currently have.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Evenings of Tuesday, June 14th, and Thursday, June 16th. Those two evenings are currently open.
I can do the 16th, but not the 14th.
I'm the same.
Works. 16th works for me, fine. No problem.
All right, you want to go on June 16th at 5 o'clock?
Works for me. Does
Yes.
that work for you, Scott?
Yes.
I think that works for me, too.
Do you guys want to try earlier or no? Just 5? I like 5's fine with
That's
me.
fine.
Okay,
That's
good.
summer, so it's a little
Okay,
easier.
I
Sounds
will
good.
block it out, and
Thank you, Bill.
So to clarify, that meeting tentatively is the presentation from all the subcommittees with their final recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
What are you thinking, it'll be like 5 or 6 presentations?
4.
4?
There should be 4.
No, yeah, I see. One each subcommittee?
And then you'll need to meet again. Well, I think the original timetable called for any final review during the month of June, and then you'll be meeting in July to put together your final plan and to hear public input on that as well.
Just as a reminder, I'm gone for 2 weeks in July.
Right,
Which is fine,
right.
I just, whatever.
So we'll probably, what are we looking at, early July or late
Where are
July
you
for
going?
the 2 middle weeks?
2 little weeks in.
Should we schedule something now then? So we all
to you.
have that on our calendars. We can move it if needed, but
Yeah, a lot could happen.
yeah.
what time frame are you talking?
July.
Might all be in a bunker.
What, the 26th, Jeremy? I think we have our council meeting.
All right, let's see, the week of July 9th.
To me, the week of July 9th,
Or the-
16th are not going to work. I'll be out of town.
The week of July, 4th of July, which is on a Monday, but every other evening is open that week. Actually,
That's not a good week to schedule things. A lot of the public's
so,
No, you're right. Yeah. That's an important meeting.
so the week of the next week, beginning Monday, 7/11, what, is that a bad week for you, Andy?
Personally, yeah, I'm thinking the week of the 25th, which, I mean, if they schedule it without me, they schedule it without me. They'll still have quorum, but
What are we doing at that meeting? We've already heard the,
Well, would that be the meeting where you would take public input on your plan, or to start to, assuming you'll have to whittle things down further?
I don't want to get too deep into it. Get off of our deadline. I know you got, but maybe we should do it before.
I can also call in virtually if that's possible. I don't know. If you guys want
Yeah,
that.
I'd hate for you to have to do that. What about the very end of June? Can we just do
Yeah,
it a little
I know.
earlier?
Sure.
Because if you go into the last week of July, the next commissioners' meeting is that following week. And that's apparently where you're going to start the presentations to. The last week of June, boy, that's like wide open. The only meeting that week on the calendar
It's a council meeting, right?
is
It's the council meeting.
that damn council.
I can do
Yeah.
any of those
Damn
days.
council, I'm open that whole week.
Me too.
I don't think I am, so that should help out.
You're not open?
I think I'm out of town.
Should have screened you guys before we put you on this committee.
I know.
Before that, is,
What about the 23rd?
June 23rd?
Yeah.
June 23rd is open.
Are you home then?
Right now, yeah,
June
as
20th.
far as I know.
Yeah, I'm open.
Put it
Okay.
on your calendar.
Are we gonna meet back-to-back weeks? Is that the plan?
Right.
Back-to-back Thursdays?
So presentations from the subcommittees on the 16th, and then your meeting to formulate the plan
Everyone forgets.
is June
It's
23rd.
just-
And that'll be 5 PM as well?
That works.
Is that, okay.
So then, should you look at July anyway, late July, to schedule the public input sessions? Or is the public input session on June 23rd?
I would say June 23rd.
Okay.
I mean, I wanna,
Yeah. Agree. Oh, it's fresh. We don't want to wait a whole month. That's,
Right. Okay.
just have a lot of homework to do from the 16th to the 23rd.
well, I don't know about you guys, but I want to, by the 16th, have pretty good understanding of what's coming to
Yeah.
us.
Yes, we should.
And you should have a really good understanding as the month of May goes on.
Absolutely.
Because two of the subcommittees are probably going to be fine-tuning their proposals within 2 more meetings. So, okay, very good. So the next meetings are June 16th and June 23rd. And so now we are now up to a total of 24 meetings, with more to go.
That doesn't include the 6 or 7 that we've already had.
Actually, I have a master meeting schedule, and that does include that, yeah.
And then your 4 compliance presentations.
Of course Vicky does.
Wait, I'm sorry?
Plus your 4 compliance presentations on top of it.
Yeah, did you count those?
No, I did not. Okay, so we're moving along.
Yeah. Okay.
So are there any other matters to come before this board, before we open it up for public comment?
Not here.
Okay.
Good
and-
job, thank you.
Okay, now let's move on to public comment. Anyone from the audience wishing to address the steering committee? Okay,
Doing a great job.
well, thank you. Good job, Nikki. Well, thank you. Okay, well, if there...
Talk about Andy, but-
Okay, there you go. Yes, you're doing a great job, Andy.
just sitting
Okay,
here.
if there are no public comments, then this meeting will be adjourned until next time.